In local matters, former President Barack Obama is in California this week, meeting with Democratic donors ahead of this year's midterm elections. At an off-camera event in Beverly Hills last night, the 44th president addressed the current state of the country, reportedly telling donors, "You are right to be concerned." He also went on to say that he does have some regrets from his presidency. So joining me now is Marisa Lagos. She covers California politics and government for the public broadcast station KQED News in San Francisco. So thanks for joining us. Let us talk about what the president had to say, but also about the Democratic Party. You actually spoke to Daniel Pfeiffer, who was President Obama's former senior advisor for strategy and communications. What is he suggesting that the Democrats have to do to get ready for these midterms and to win back some seats?
Well, it's crazy because I spoke with him Tuesday, and of course, things have changed dramatically since then around things like the Supreme Court and others. But I think the message that we're hearing from Obama and the people around him are the same, which is that, really turnout is what's important to Democrats, that they need to really get their base excited and try to get some of those voters back that, maybe voted for Obama in 2008 and 12, but went to Trump or didn't vote at all in 2016. And so, I think that they are concerned. I think that there is some energy that we're seeing coming out of the left wing of the party that they are hoping to harness. But I think a lot of it really is just about getting voters to the polls. If you look at it, the diehard Trump base isn't going anywhere. It doesn't matter what happens in D.C. or on the border. And so Democrats, I think, really need to focus on the people that they know agree with them, but maybe weren't excited in 2016 to get out.
That's really interesting. To me, saying you got to get people out to the polls is like saying, how do you win a basketball game? You got to sink some balls. But what are they going to do to do that? The conversation around how the Democrats are doing has been about whether or not they're just going to hope that people are so outraged by President Donald Trump that somehow they'll show up at the polls, or they'll have a distinctive message to bring people out. Did he talk anything about that?
Yeah, I think the thing that when you talk to people who actually run these campaigns and are on the ground, that they say is, yes, we can talk about Trump. And Dan Pfeiffer did discuss this exactly. He said, we need to say what, if we think what Trump is doing at the border is illegal or immoral, we need to say that. But we also need to add to the end of that sentence, but we also need to protect health care. We also need to protect the environment. Like, they need to be speaking about the news of the day and reacting to Trump, but they also need to be careful to not let him lead every conversation. And so I think that's part of it. I think it's also just a matter of, look, it's a huge country. You got to run the right person in your district. And really, when it comes down to exciting voters, there might be some people who are coming out just to vote against Trump, but people react better to a positive message than a negative one. And so I think what they're looking at is trying to get candidates in these districts that speak to the individual constituents in those areas. Yeah,
that's definitely what we've been seeing over and over again, that all politics is local and you have to be a good local politician first and foremost. Did he mention what role former President Barack Obama might play?
So he did a little bit. There's been this question about why Obama's been so silent over the last couple of years. And I think that he did indicate that he expects to see the former president out there where he thinks he's needed. What Dan Pfeiffer told me was, look, the president knows that if he comes out and reacts to everything that Trump does, he's just going to be piling on. And that's not going to do what they need to do, again, which is excite people sort of beyond the faithful who go to the polls every time. So I would expect to see Obama make appearances, of course, at these high-profile fundraisers where they raise a ton of money, but also in specific districts where he thinks that him showing up will actually help excite Democrats. I don't think we're going to see him doing all the Sunday shows every week, for example, but I do think we're going to see a little bit more of President Obama in the coming months.
So speaking of these fundraisers, Mr. Obama never actually said the president's name during the fundraiser, but he did talk at length about the problems that he sees with the Trump presidency. What were some of his concerns?
I think the same concerns we're hearing from every Democrat around immigration, around the Supreme Court, of course, this week is the big one. And I think we'll expect to hear more of that. Today he's still in California, coming up to my neck of the woods, the Bay Area. He'll be appearing with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo at another, I'm sure, million or billionaire's house. And I think he'll continue to talk about what he sees as really some of, the changes from his presidency and getting people in Congress who can really stand up to this president as they see that they need to.
Right. You mentioned harnessing some of the energy coming from the more left wing of the party. Earlier this week, we saw a 28-year-old Democratic socialist, never ran for anything in her life, unseat the number 4 top Democrat in the House. When we heard about this, we were hearing that Democrats were stunned. They did not expect this. Is the DNC addressing this ahead of the midterms?
I think they are trying to walk a very fine line between, of course, embracing this woman, Alexandria Castillo Cortez, who will likely be a new member of their caucus, and, trying to protect their power, quite frankly. This was a surprise for them. I don't know that it should have been. I mean, look, this is one district. I don't think you'll see, she was a Bernie organizer. She took a lot of the lessons from that campaign. We're not going to see this in purple or red states. But I do think that it speaks to the energy on the left flank of the party, similar to what we saw, 10 years ago with the Tea Party and the Republicans. And I think it speaks to the fact that leaders like Nancy Pelosi are going to potentially see a challenge. I mean, look, if they win in November, I think it's a lot safer that Pelosi could keep her seat. But if Democrats lose, I think we'll see an entire upending of the Democratic caucus in Congress.
Yeah, right. Former President Obama is speaking today at 2 events in California. Can you tell us any more about the events?
Just that they will be closed, that they will be very expensive seats. And as I said before, I know that Nancy Pelosi and Anna Eshoo will be at one of them. This is a fundraiser for the DCCC, which is the Congressional Committee. And I expect that we'll hear, I hope, a little bit more about these 7 seats in California that Democrats are hoping to flip from red to blue. Those, again, are all very different districts. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how they try to come in from a national perspective and help those individual candidates, because if you're on the coast in Orange County, it's a very different conversation than if you're in the Central Valley surrounded by farmlands.
Right. Marisa Lagos, thank you very much.
Thank you.